The night sky was calm above Earth, stars glowing like scattered diamonds across the darkness. People in different corners of the world carried on with their lives, unaware that everything was about to change. Some children pointed their telescopes at the constellations, students hurried home from late classes, and scientists at observatories scanned the heavens for the usual patterns. But on that night, new lights appeared, bright, cold, and moving with unnatural speed. At first, only astronomers noticed. A group in Chile saw the streaks, sharp and organized, not like meteors or satellites. Objects are entering the solar system, one researcher whispered. Within minutes, other observatories confirmed the same thing. The unknown objects were massive and headed directly toward Earth. Within hours, governments around the globe were alerted. World leaders held emergency calls, their voices tense, their eyes fixed on screens showing the same alarming truth. Thousands of colossal ships were approaching in formation. They looked like black shadows against the stars, swallowing light as they advanced. News spread quickly. Television channels interrupted programs with urgent broadcasts. Online networks exploded with theories. Some claimed it was a natural event, others believed it was an experiment gone wrong. But as the first images from space telescopes appeared, the truth could not be denied. These were ships, alien ships. Panic rose across the globe. Families rushed to stores buying supplies. Some prayed, some cried, and some simply froze in shock. Humanity had always wondered if life existed beyond Earth, but no one expected the first contact to be an invasion. Inside a hidden command center beneath the mountains of Colorado, General Marcus Hale stood before a massive holographic screen. He had served for 3 decades, but never imagined he would lead during such a moment. Around him, officers relayed information as fast as satellites could gather it. "They've broken into the inner system, sir," one officer reported. "At their speed, they'll reach Earth orbit within 72 hours. The general's jaw tightened. "Have they sent any signals?" "Yes, sir." "A transmission was received an hour ago." The message played on the screen. A towering alien figure appeared, its body armored in strange metallic plates. Its voice was deep and mechanical, translated into human languages by Earth's systems. "People of Earth," it declared, "your time of isolation is over. We are the Kralith Dominion, masters of 1,000 worlds. You will surrender your planet and resources, or you will be erased." The room fell silent after the broadcast ended. The message left no room for negotiation. It was not an invitation for peace, but a demand for submission. General Hale looked around the room at his officers. He could see the fear in their eyes, but also something else, a determination not to bow. "They think we'll surrender easily," he said quietly, "but they don't know humanity." Meanwhile, in cities around the globe, ordinary people tried to understand what was happening. In Tokyo, a young student named Yuki sat with her friends, staring at the news feed on her phone. In Lagos, an engineer named Chiki hurried to check on his family while calculating what could be done if communications failed. In São Paulo, a doctor named Elena prepared her hospital for possible chaos. Everywhere, people were afraid, but they were also preparing in their own ways. In orbit above Earth, astronauts on the International Space Station saw the approaching Armada with their own eyes. Hundreds of glowing shapes filled the distance like a swarm of locusts. One astronaut whispered into the radio, "They're blotting out the stars." As the alien fleet drew closer, global defense systems activated. Satellites adjusted positions, military aircraft were scrambled, and emergency shelters were prepared. Leaders addressed their nations, calling for calm. Yet deep inside, many feared humanity stood no chance against such overwhelming force. But Earth was not as unprepared as the invaders assumed. For decades, secret projects had been underway. Hidden defense stations orbited high above, disguised as communication satellites. Underground laboratories had developed experimental weapons. And though nations often disagreed with one another, when faced with an external threat, humanity's survival instinct awakened. 3 days later, the alien ships entered Earth's orbit. Their size was beyond comprehension. Some stretched for miles, bristling with weapon arrays and glowing engines. Cities across the planet watched in terror as the ships appeared in the skies, their silhouettes blocking the sun. Then the first attack began. Beams of energy rained down, striking military bases, communication towers, and power grids. The invaders targeted Earth's defenses quickly, confident that humans would collapse in fear. Explosions lit up the night as cities trembled. But instead of surrendering, humanity responded. The hidden orbital platforms came online, firing streams of high-powered energy at the alien fleet. Fighter jets launched in coordinated waves, supported by missiles guided by advanced tracking systems. The aliens expected confusion but found resistance. From the underground command center, General Hale gave the order. All units, execute Operation Sentinel. Across the world, humans rose to fight back. Engineers rerouted power to defense grids. Pilots pushed their machines beyond safe limits. Civilians worked together to protect one another in shelters. Even as destruction rained from above, humanity refused to yield. In the alien flagship, Admiral Zorath of the Kralith Dominion watched the screens with cold disbelief. His race had conquered dozens of species, and never once had they faced such stubborn resistance from what they considered a primitive world. "These humans," he muttered, his voice sharp with irritation, "they do not know their place." One of his officers replied, "Admiral, our first wave reports heavy losses. Their weapons are unconventional but effective." Zorath narrowed his eyes. "Then we will crush them harder. They must learn fear." Back on Earth, in a small town far from the battle lines, Yuki, Cheek, and Elena each watched the same news broadcast showing human fighters striking alien ships. The world, though shaken, felt a spark of hope. Humanity was not broken. Humanity was fighting. The first day of battle ended with cities scarred but not destroyed. The aliens had expected a quick victory. Instead, they had awakened something far stronger, the will of a united humanity. As night fell, General Hale stood outside the command center for a brief moment. He looked up at the sky where streaks of fire still marked the heavens. His heart was heavy but firm. "They came thinking we would bow," he whispered. "But Earth does not bow, not now, not ever." The war had only just begun. The first day of battle had ended, but the night sky above Earth was still filled with fire. Wreckage of alien ships drifted like glowing embers, mixing with destroyed satellites and fragments of human defense systems. The world had survived the first strike, but everyone knew the fight was far from over. General Marcus Hale stood in the underground command center, his eyes fixed on the holographic map of Earth. Red marks covered the globe, showing damaged areas and destroyed infrastructure. But there were also blue marks, active defense sites still standing strong. Humanity had not been crushed, and that in itself was a victory. "Casualty reports are coming in," one officer said, his voice heavy. "But so are success reports. Orbital platforms Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-3 are still online. They destroyed 7 alien warships before going dark." The general gave a short nod. "They bought us time, and time is our sharpest weapon." Across the planet, humanity was beginning to reveal its hidden edge. For years, nations had quietly prepared for the possibility of an extraterrestrial threat. These projects had been dismissed by many as science fiction, but now they were saving Earth. In a hidden hangar deep under the Siberian tundra, engineers hurried around sleek black aircraft that had never been shown to the public. These were the Valkyrie-class interceptors, experimental jets built with advanced engines and plasma-tipped weapons. Designed in secret by an international team, they were faster than anything the aliens expected. At the same time, in the deserts of Australia, a group of scientists activated Project Orion, a massive ground-based railgun capable of firing tungsten rods into orbit at extreme velocity. When the first rod shot upward, it tore through the hull of an alien destroyer, splitting it in two. The victory was broadcast live across the world, giving people hope. But technology was only half of humanity's strength. The other half lay in the people themselves, their creativity, their refusal to quit, and their unity in crisis. In Lagos, Shiki the engineer had transformed his local community center into a small operations hub. He gathered other engineers, mechanics, and even university students. Using spare parts, they built emergency communication relays that linked to satellites still in orbit. With those, families could reconnect and military groups could coordinate. In Tokyo, Yuki and her classmates stayed awake all night in their university lab, working on software that could analyze alien communication patterns. They discovered strange patterns in the signals between enemy ships, like codes that controlled formations. The information was quickly sent to military command. In São Paulo, Dr. Elena organized a volunteer network in her hospital. Doctors, nurses, and ordinary citizens worked tirelessly to help the injured. Supplies were short, but people donated whatever they could. The spirit of cooperation kept hope alive. Meanwhile, in the alien flagship above Earth, Admiral Zorath sat in his throne-like command chair, his armored fingers tapping the armrest. His officers displayed battle reports, losses that should have been impossible. How? Zorath demanded. His voice echoed like metal striking stone. How can a primitive species strike at us with such accuracy? One officer, cautious in tone, replied, Admiral, their weapons are crude compared to ours, but they adapt them with alarming speed. They use debris as traps. They repurpose satellites into weapons. They are unpredictable. Zorath's eyes narrowed. Unpredictability is weakness. They will break soon. But deep inside, even he wondered if this species was unlike the others they had conquered. On Earth, General Hale called a meeting with his closest advisors. The room buzzed with urgency. Our advantage is not in strength, Hale began, but in how fast we can change. The enemy follows patterns, we do not. That is how we win. A scientist stepped forward, her face tired but determined. We've been studying fragments from the destroyed alien ships. Their armor is strong against direct blasts, but weak against extreme temperature changes. If we can lure them into Earth's atmosphere at high speed, the friction and heat will weaken their shields. Another officer added, we could use drones to bait them, then strike when they descend too low. The general gave a thin smile. Good. Let's show them Earth isn't theirs to claim. The next wave of battles began at dawn. Alien warships descended again, blasting cities with energy beams. But this time humanity was ready. Over the Pacific Ocean, Valkyrie interceptors launched into the sky, their engines blazing blue. They darted between alien fire, releasing swarms of guided plasma charges. The aliens, unused to such agile craft, lost several ships before realizing the danger. Above the Sahara, Project Orion fired another tungsten rod, this one striking an enemy cruiser so hard that the explosion could be seen from hundreds of miles away. Crowds across Africa cheered as the alien ship fell like a burning star. In Europe, engineers hacked into an abandoned alien drone captured during the first day. They managed to turn it against its own fleet, causing confusion in the enemy's ranks. For the first time, the invaders hesitated, but victory came with cost. Cities burned, power grids failed, and thousands of lives were lost. Humanity's hidden edge was not endless. Resources were stretched thin. Yet morale remained high. People no longer felt helpless. They felt defiant. In her hospital, Elena heard patients whisper with hope as news of victory spread. We are fighting back, one young man said weakly from his bed, and we are winning. In Lagos, Chiki looked up at the night sky where streaks of fire marked alien ships being destroyed. He clenched his fists. We are not prey, he said to his fellow engineers. We are builders, fighters, survivors. They will learn that. In Tokyo, Yuki's team finally cracked part of the alien code. They realized that the invaders relied heavily on central command from the flagship. If Earth could disrupt that chain, the fleet would lose coordination. She quickly sent the discovery to the Global Command Center. Back underground in Colorado, General Hale received Yuki's report. His eyes lit up with possibility. So that's their weakness, he murmured. He turned to his officers. Prepare the next phase. If we can sever their command, the Armada will fall apart. The officers exchanged glances. General, are you suggesting we attack their flagship directly? Hale nodded slowly. Yes, we don't have to destroy them all. We only need to cut the head off the snake. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the risk. But for the first time, there was a clear path forward. High above, Admiral Zorath gazed at Earth through the viewing window of his flagship. Fires burned across the planet, but so did resistance. His pride ached with every report of losses. Humans, he growled. You were supposed to kneel. Instead, you rise, he clenched his clawed hand. Very well. Let us see how long you last when the full power of the Dominion falls upon you. On Earth, though battered, humanity stood firm. The hidden edge had been revealed. Unity, creativity, and unshakable will. The invaders had expected easy prey, but what they found was something far greater. The war was far from over. But now, the galaxy would soon witness what it meant to face Earth. The second week of battle began with the world holding its breath. Cities still burned from the earlier strikes, skies were scarred with smoke and falling debris, and yet humanity stood unbroken. What the alien invaders had believed would be a swift conquest had turned into a grinding war. General Marcus Hale studied the war map in the underground command center. Red dots represented enemy warships still orbiting Earth. There were many, too many, but scattered among them were gray marks, alien ships destroyed, floating wreckage that drifted silently above the planet. For every human loss, at least one alien vessel had fallen. Hale turned to his staff. They underestimate us, and that is our weapon. We strike where they do not expect. We use everything they cannot imagine as a weapon. His voice was steady, but he knew the cost was growing. Humanity had to turn the tide, and soon. In Tokyo, Yuki and her classmates worked tirelessly. They had uncovered patterns in the alien fleet's command signals. Each ship depended on direct orders from the flagship, and without those orders they struggled to adapt. If we can jam their signals, Yuki said to her team, their formations will break. They will fight like scattered insects instead of an army. Her friend adjusted the code. We can't reach all their frequencies, but maybe we don't need to. If we disrupt enough, even for minutes, it could give our forces a chance. The plan was sent to the Global Command Center. In Lagos, Cheeky's engineers continued building improvised tools for the resistance. They turned old broadcast towers into signal boosters, amplifying human transmissions to interfere with alien channels. They used drones, some built from spare car parts, to deliver supplies to frontline fighters. Cheeky looked at his exhausted team and smiled faintly. This is not just war, he told them. This is invention under fire, and invention is what humans do best. In São Paulo, Dr. Elena's hospital overflowed with injured civilians and soldiers. Every hour brought new casualties, yet the spirit of the people kept her going. She saw volunteers working side by side, strangers helping strangers. Even in pain, humanity refused to collapse. One evening, while tending to a wounded pilot, Elena asked softly, "Why did you fly again, even after being hurt?" The pilot smiled weakly. "Because every time we rise into the sky, we remind them this is our home, and no one takes it from us." Those words gave Elena strength for the long nights ahead. Meanwhile, battles raged across land, sea, and sky. Humanity had begun using guerrilla tactics in space. Small strike teams launched from hidden bases on the moon and even from asteroids. They used debris fields as cover, hiding until the enemy passed, then striking fast. Over the Atlantic Ocean, a squadron of Valkyrie interceptors lured alien fighters into a storm. The turbulence disrupted their shields, and human missiles found their targets. Lightning flashed across the sky as alien craft fell in flames. In orbit, hacked satellites turned into weapons, slamming themselves into enemy ships at high velocity. What the aliens called trash, humans turned into deadly tools. The invaders were trained for predictable battles. They expected opponents to follow rules, to fight directly, but humanity's unpredictability left them shaken. A breakthrough came when Yuki's signal jamming program was tested. Using Cheek's boosted towers, Earth launched its first electronic strike against the alien fleet. For 10 precious minutes, the invaders' formations broke apart. Their ships collided, weapons misfired, and confusion spread. General Hale seized the moment. "All forces, strike now." All across Earth, defenses opened fire. Project Orion in Australia destroyed another massive cruiser. Valkyries swarmed enemy carriers, their plasma weapons slicing through weakened shields. In Africa, improvised railguns struck enemy frigates, sending them crashing into the desert. The galaxy's most feared fleet had been thrown into chaos by a species the Kralith Dominion had thought unworthy of survival. On the alien flagship, Admiral Zorath slammed his fist against the command console. "Impossible. They fight with scraps, with chaos, and yet they bleed us." One officer hesitated before speaking. "Admiral, perhaps these humans are not like the others we have conquered. They fight as if their entire existence burns in each strike." Zorath's eyes glowed with fury. "They are a young race, nothing more. This resistance is only a spark before extinction. I will extinguish it myself." But doubt had already begun to creep into the minds of his subordinates. That night, humanity celebrated small victories. In Tokyo, Yuki's team cheered when news of the signal disruption reached them. In Lagos, Cheeky and his engineers embraced, proud that their towers had helped confuse the enemy. In São Paulo, Elena and her hospital staff wept with relief as fewer injured arrived than expected. Yet no one believed the war was close to over. The aliens were still strong and Earth was still fragile. But for the first time, hope felt real. The turning point came not just from battles, but from unity. Nations that had once distrusted each other now shared everything. Technology, resources, even secrets long hidden. Old rivalries faded, replaced by a single goal: survival. In the command center, General Hale spoke to the world in a broadcast. His voice carried to every corner of the planet. "Humanity," he said. "The enemy thought us weak. They thought us divided. But today we have shown them who we are. We are not divided. We are one. And together we are unstoppable." The world erupted in cheers. For the first time in history, every nation, every people felt bound together by a single fight. On the alien flagship, Admiral Zorath received troubling news. One of his captured officers had been interrogated by humans, and during that time, the humans had shown mercy. Instead of torture, they offered food and water. Instead of cruelty, they asked questions with patience. The officer, shaken by this strange kindness, admitted to Zorath, "Admiral, they are not only fighters, they are protectors. They fight not for conquest, but for each other. That makes them dangerous." Zorath dismissed him with a growl, but the words echoed in his mind. In space, wreckage floated endlessly, a silent reminder of the battles fought. Among the ruins, a small group of human astronauts salvaged parts from destroyed alien ships. They studied energy cores, shield fragments, and strange alloys. What they learned would soon change the war again. Back on Earth, Cheeky received a shipment of alien debris to study. He looked at the glowing material in awe. "If we can use this," he told his team, "we can build something the aliens will never expect." And so, humanity began preparing for a counterstrike. As dawn rose over Earth once more, the planet still scarred but standing, people everywhere looked to the skies with new courage. They no longer saw invincible gods descending from the stars. They saw enemies who could bleed, who could falter. In the underground command center, General Hale whispered to himself, "This is no longer their war. This is ours." Humanity had turned fear into defiance and defiance into hope. The invaders had come to conquer a world, but instead they had awakened a united people ready to fight for every inch of their home. The galaxy was beginning to watch, and soon it would never forget. The alien fleet still hung over Earth like a dark storm, but humanity had learned to fight back. They were no longer reacting, they were planning. Every victory, every failed strike, every tiny success had taught them more about their enemy. Now the humans were ready to strike where it hurt the most: the alien command ship. General Marcus Hale gathered his top commanders in the underground command center. The map of Earth's orbit and the alien fleet glowed brightly on the holographic screen. Hale's finger traced the path of the flagship, the massive ship that coordinated every move of the Kralith Armada. "This is it," he said. "Everything we've done leads to this moment. If we can disrupt their command, the entire fleet becomes vulnerable. We have one chance and we must take it." The room was tense. Officers exchanged serious glances. The mission was dangerous. Hundreds of human lives would be risked against a fleet they could not yet fully understand. But there was no hesitation in Hale's mind. Humanity had no choice but to fight. In Tokyo, Yuki and her team worked around the clock to perfect the signal jamming software. Every line of code was double-checked. They coordinated with engineers in Lagos, who were preparing a network of relay towers to amplify the disruption across the alien fleet. "This is it," Yuki said, staring at the final simulation. "If this works, we cut off the flagship's control. Their ships will have no orders, no coordination. Chaos will follow." Her friend nodded, sweat dripping down his forehead. "And our fighters will strike while they are blind. Humanity's chance to turn the tide." In the deserts of Australia, Project Orion's railguns were repositioned and upgraded. Engineers worked day and night, calculating trajectories that could target the flagship while avoiding damage to Earth. Hundreds of volunteers carried massive power cells and components to hidden bunkers, working tirelessly in the heat. Chike's team in Lagos prepared drones loaded with experimental explosives, designed to pierce the hulls of alien ships. Each drone was small but deadly, a silent weapon that humans could control with precision. The counterstrike began at dawn. From hidden bases across the world, Valkyrie interceptors roared into the sky. Their engines burned brightly as they soared toward orbit, carrying explosives and electronic devices designed to disrupt the alien fleet. Thousands of drones followed, moving like swarms of glowing insects toward the enemy. Above the Atlantic Ocean, human satellites fired high-velocity projectiles, striking alien vessels with unerring accuracy. Energy beams from Earth-based weapons tore through shields that had seemed invincible. And then, Yuki's signal jamming software activated. For the first time, the flagship faltered. Commands failed to reach the rest of the Armada. Ships collided in orbit, unable to maneuver correctly. Weapons misfired, firing into empty space or even against each other. Confusion spread like wildfire. "Now," General Hale shouted. "All units strike the flagship." Every human weapon focused on the massive command ship. Valkyries dodged incoming fire, releasing plasma bombs that scorched the hull. Railguns fired tungsten rods, slicing through armor and sending sparks across space. Drones smashed into the ship, detonating in small but precise explosions that weakened key systems. Inside the flagship, Admiral Zorath slammed his fist on the console. "What is happening?" One officer stammered. "Admiral, the humans, they've disabled our command link. The fleet is losing coordination." Zorath's eyes glowed with fury. "Impossible! How can a primitive species?" The chaos outside left the aliens vulnerable. Smaller ships turned on their own formations, firing at allies instead of enemies. The humans had created a perfect storm, where the most technologically advanced fleet in the galaxy could not adapt quickly enough. On Earth, civilians watched in awe as the sky lit up with explosions. Yuki's team monitored the signal jamming, adjusting frequencies to keep the disruption active. Cheek's drones delivered deadly precision strikes. Engineers activated additional railguns, targeting weak points identified in the alien hulls. The world, battered and exhausted, had risen as one. Ordinary people, engineers, pilots, doctors, and soldiers all played their part. The alien armada had expected to crush a single species. Instead, they faced the ingenuity and determination of an entire planet. Inside the flagship, Zorath's fury grew. "Send boarding teams. Take the humans from the inside." But by now, humanity had anticipated this. Hidden satellites intercepted the boarding ships, destroying them before they reached Earth. Valkyries and drones attacked any approach, ensuring that no alien forces could breach the planet's surface. Zorath's officers began to question him. "Admiral, perhaps we misjudged them. They are extraordinary. We cannot win this battle by force alone." Zorath's claws tightened. "No, we will never admit weakness. We will crush them, but..." His gaze flickered to the view of Earth below. "This is different." For hours, the counterstrike continued. Human forces worked in perfect synchronization, a mix of advanced technology and improvisation. Debris from destroyed ships became shields, makeshift weapons, and cover for other fighters. Human pilots navigated through asteroid fields and smoke trails, striking with precision and speed. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the flagship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending shockwaves across the alien fleet. The remaining ships faltered, losing coordination entirely. Without their leader, their formations collapsed and many fled in disarray. On Earth, people cheered. Cities that had been under attack celebrated the incredible victory. Humanity had not just survived, they had struck back and gained the upper hand. General Hale surveyed the map of the battlefield. The Armada was broken, scattered, and in retreat. He allowed himself a small smile. "This is what happens," he said quietly, "when you underestimate humanity." Yuki, Chiki, and Elena, all in different parts of the world, felt the same thrill. They had played their part. They had shown the galaxy that Earth was not weak, that humans would not surrender, and the galaxy had begun to take notice. In orbit, Zorath realized the truth. His fleet was defeated not because of numbers or strength, but because of the humans' ingenuity, courage, and unity. For the first time in his life, the Kralith Admiral experienced fear, not for himself, but for the survival of his empire. He recorded a final message to his superiors, admitting the failure. "The humans, they are unlike anything we have faced. They fight not for power or conquest, but for each other. I cannot ignore this threat." Back on Earth, General Hale received intelligence of the retreating alien forces. He knew this was only one battle, but a major victory had been achieved. Humanity had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could rise. Across the planet, life slowly began to return. People helped each other rebuild homes and communities. The injured were cared for. Communications were restored. And above all, humanity looked to the future with confidence. They had faced extinction and had struck back in a way no one could have imagined. From the deserts to the cities, from the oceans to the mountains, humanity celebrated not only survival but triumph. The alien armada, once thought invincible, had been forced to retreat. The counterstrike had shown the galaxy what Earth was capable of. The humans had not only defended their home, they had fought with strategy, courage, and unity that shocked the universe. General Hale, standing once more before the holographic map, whispered, "This is just the beginning. We will protect our planet, and we will make sure the universe knows we are not to be underestimated." The stars above, once threatening, now seemed full of possibility. Humanity had struck back and the galaxy had begun to watch. The galaxy had changed, but the war was far from over. Word of human victories had spread across countless star systems, sparking hope in some and fear in the swarm. Every alien fleet that had once given up found new courage under the humans' leadership. Entire species, long thought broken, began to rise again, rebuilding fleets and training soldiers with renewed determination. Yet even as hope returned, the swarm's threat remained immense. Their main force, more powerful than anything the galaxy had seen, was moving steadily toward Lyros. Scouts reported an enormous armada, dark as a shadow and bristling with weapons of destruction. Every system in the path of this fleet risked annihilation. The council gathered urgently. Chancellor Veyer of the Veyeri spoke first. "We cannot withstand their full strength. Even with the humans' help, if they attack directly, we will be crushed. We must choose our strategy carefully." Captain Darius stepped forward, his expression calm but firm. "Direct defense will fail. The swarm believes in overwhelming numbers in relentless advance, but they do not anticipate creativity, unpredictability, or boldness. We will not meet them head-on. We will force them to fight on our terms." The council looked at him skeptically. "And what is this plan?" asked the Zalari representative. Darius outlined a strategy that sounded impossible to most. A small human-led fleet would act as bait, drawing the swarm into a carefully prepared zone filled with traps, ambush points, and decoys. Behind them, the main Allied fleet would wait in hidden positions, ready to strike at the enemy's weakest points simultaneously. "It is risky," admitted Darius, "but the swarm is predictable in its aggression. If we control the battlefield, we control the fight." Reluctantly, the council agreed. Preparations began immediately. Ships were refitted, weapons upgraded, and human strategists worked tirelessly to optimize every detail. Soldiers trained for weeks, learning to move, communicate, and fight in ways they had never imagined. Even the alien species, long cautious and conservative, embraced the humans' methods. The day of battle arrived. The space around Lyros darkened with the swarm's approaching fleet. Shadows stretched across the void, their immense shapes casting an eerie presence over every system. For a moment, silence filled the council chamber and the fleets above the planet. Captain Darius addressed his team, his voice calm but filled with determination. "This is what we have trained for. Stay focused. Move together. Trust your instincts and each other. Remember, we fight not just for survival but for the future of every species in the galaxy. Today we make our stand." The human-led fleet moved forward. They were smaller in number, their ships patched and modified, but they moved with precision, weaving through asteroid fields and narrow channels. The swarm noticed and pursued, confident in their numbers. But the humans were ready. Explosions erupted across the battlefield as mines detonated, hiding behind asteroids and debris. The swarm ships were caught in traps, unable to adapt quickly enough. Every attack the humans launched was carefully calculated to exploit weaknesses. Ships that appeared fragile turned out to be armed with unexpected weapons. The enemy, relentless in approach, began to falter. In the council chamber above Lyros, the alien leaders watched in awe. "They are more than warriors," whispered a learned commander. "They are something else entirely. The humans did not fight for glory. They fought for precision and for hope." Strike teams moved with perfect timing, hitting enemy supply lines, disabling key vessels, and forcing the swarm to spread their forces thin. The battlefield, which initially seemed hopeless, began to tilt. Victory was no longer impossible. Captain Darius led a small squad directly into the heart of the swarm's formation. The enemy's ships surrounded them, confident in their superiority. But the humans had a plan. Using energy reroutes, coordinated fire, and clever maneuvers, they disabled critical engines, forcing the swarm fleet into collisions with each other and the traps hidden around the asteroid belts. Even when one human ship was damaged, The crew did not panic. Instead, they improvised, using pieces of debris as shields and rerouting power to other weapons. They emerged from danger stronger than before. Hours passed. Explosions lit the darkness of space. Ships moved with a deadly rhythm, some firing, some dodging, some striking from unexpected directions. The swarm began to lose cohesion. Their predictable patterns were exploited at every turn. Small victories mounted into larger ones. Ships that should have overwhelmed the humans were destroyed or disabled. The alien leaders realized something they had never believed possible. The swarm could be defeated. And it was not by overwhelming power, but by strategy, adaptability, and determination. The humans had turned fear into opportunity and chaos into victory. Finally, the moment came to strike at the swarm's core fleet. Using all the tricks they had learned, human strike teams infiltrated the enemy's center. Hidden explosives, carefully timed maneuvers, and clever use of the battlefield led to the collapse of the swarm's command vessels. Without coordination, the remaining fleet fell into disarray. Ships collided, fired blindly, and retreated in confusion. The tide of battle turned decisively. What had seemed like inevitable defeat became a stunning victory. When the final blast shook the void, the humans returned to Liros. Their ships were battered, some barely functional, but their crews were alive. Triumphant and exhausted, the council erupted in celebration, though the humans remained focused. For them, the fight was never about recognition. It was about survival, and about giving the galaxy a chance to live again. Chancellor Veyar stepped forward, his wings folding in reverence. "I have never seen anything like this," he said. "Your courage, your skill. You have done what no one else could. You have changed the course of this war." Captain Darius shook his head slightly. "We did not do this alone. Every species that fought with us, every ship, every soldier. Together, we turned the tide. But this is not the end. The swarm will return and we must be ready." The Zalari representative nodded. "And they will be ready, because humans have awakened more than courage. They have awakened hope." Days later, the council convened again. Survivors of the battle, alien and human alike, told their stories. Across the galaxy, systems that had been abandoned began to rebuild. Trade routes reopened. Communication networks reconnected. For the first time in generations, the war-torn galaxy felt alive again. Humans became leaders and teachers. They trained alien forces, shared tactics, and showed how courage and intelligence could overcome even the greatest obstacles. Where once despair had ruled, now innovation and hope guided every decision. The Orith elder, standing quietly in the council chamber, smiled at the scene. "We feared the end," he said. "But humans have reminded us that the end is never certain. The galaxy has a future, and that future begins today." Captain Darius looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of victory and responsibility. He knew that challenges would come again, but he also knew that humanity had awakened not just to fight, but to lead, to inspire, and to protect. The flame of hope had been lit, and it would not be extinguished. As the sun rose over Liros, casting golden light across the sanctuary, humans and their allies looked to the stars. They had faced near destruction and survived. They had turned despair into victory, and from the ashes of hopelessness, a new dawn began for the galaxy. The humans had awoken. The swarm had been challenged, and the story of the galaxy would never be the same again. For in the hearts of those who had fought, one truth remained clear. Even when all hope seemed lost, humans could rise, and with them, the universe could fight on.